Mixed
And is it
bag.
okay if I keep my video on when I'm eating, or shall I switch it off?
Mixed
I think it's
bag
up
at
to you.
Belmont Story Swap. January 17, 2022. So moving from my mom to my character, I've pulled this character from one of the pueblos in New Mexico. There's an area called there's a pueblo called Santa Clara, and it was a special day that, and people like me were able to visit there, and we got to see amazing dances and costumes and colors and formations and large groups. And because of what I told you before we started the recording with my mom, you will see that mirrored image in this first part of the story. Turkey girl. A young girl is born into this community and loses her mother at a very, she's younger than my mother, who was only 4 when my mother lost her mother, but this girl was much smaller. And like my mother, this girl's, one of her aunts took her in, but didn't want to and felt forced. And as time went by, was not generous. No breakfast many days. Sometimes a day would pass and the aunt gave the girl no food. And by the time the girl was 6, the aunt gave her the job of caring for the turkeys because they owned turkeys. And every morning the girl would go out and take the turkeys out of where they were sleeping the night before and get them into the canyon. And there she spent much of her day. In fact, all of her day, because it was dark before it was dark, she gathered her turkeys and she brought them back and put them away. And the turkeys appreciated how she cared for them. And she loved the turkeys. And it will not surprise you to know that the turkeys began to start bringing back berries to give to her. Acorns, pinyons. And how else could she have survived? And so maybe not thriving, but this is how she was getting by. And on the day when the girl noticed that her cousins, her girl cousins, were noisier than, more excited than usual, she listened to what they were talking about. And her girl cousins were talking about a big festival, a dance that was coming. And they would spend long periods of time describing what they wanted to wear and what the colors were and their shoes and their adornments. And the girl listened to this, but that's as far as it went. And she kept it to herself. But the next day, when she had collected her turkeys and they were going into the canyon together, the girl shared with the turkeys what she had heard her girl cousins talking about. And the turkeys took that to heart, because the turkeys said to the girl, they gave her, they didn't tell her what they were planning to do, but the next day when she collected the turkeys to take them into the canyon, when they were on the road, they spoke to her and they said that they wanted her to beat them with a stick. There were 4 turkeys and she didn't want to beat them with the stick. And they insisted that she beat them with a stick, and she wouldn't beat them with a stick. And eventually the turkeys confronted her in a very aggressive way, and her natural reaction was to pick up the stick that they had provided her, and she whacked one of the turkeys. And when she did that, a woven dress, fell out from underneath the turkey's wing. And in the whole fracas, she has now whacked all 4 turkeys, and out of the second turkey falls white moccasins. Out of another turkey falls a beaded necklace. And the 4th turkey, after it had been hit under its wing, came out a colorful sash that she could tie around her waist. And then they said, we must go bathe you when you'll be all clean. And as they did every day, they took care of her hair. And with their beaks, they would part it and take out tangles and smooth it and comb it. And so today they also helped with getting her clean. So when this is done, she is able to go back into town. But before she goes, they say to her that it's very important that she enjoy herself the whole day, but that she come back and she collects them, and she does it before dark. Well, now you're already imagining, and if you aren't, you might as well be thinking that she's made it to the dance and she is dancing. The villagers didn't know her. And even if they had paid attention, she was never around because all her daylight hours were with the turkeys in the canyon. And people wondered who this was. And she was dancing and she was able to meet the boys and she was twirling and she was having a fine time, except that she was having such a fine time that, like happens to other characters that start with C and end in A, her fine time went far too far. And before she realized it, the promise that she had made to her turkeys could not be met. Darkness had already fallen. And it didn't stop her. She went and she searched and she persisted, but she couldn't bring back her turkeys. And the people say that the turkeys dispersed themselves, and that this is the sort of thing that explains why turkeys are very independent on their own, and they go out and they wander, and they are not able to be managed because they think they need to do it themselves. And there you have the maiden and the turkeys.
That was great. I've never heard a Native American version of that story. I don't think, not that I remember.
I couldn't either, but
It's the Cinderella story.
Definitely
Yeah.
Cinderella.
Yeah.
What do you know? Where is that from the Southwest? You know where?
It's kind of
well, it's in the book that I have on Southwestern Indian stories. This one is from, like I said, a pueblo in
New Mexico.
New Mexico,
Mhm.
called Santa Clara.
Okay. Do you know what tribe that is?
Well,
Navajo.
No.
the
Probably we can't hear you.
it's the
Navajo, some Hopis,
I was thinking
Cheyennes came down
Hopis,
there. Some Utes would go
Goonies.
back and forth. It's a well-traveled
Hmm.
path, but they gave it all to the Navajo Indians. Their big tribe is down there.
mhm. Well, Tiwa comes up. I'm not sure about the
Okay.
Tiwas, but yes to the Hopis.
What do you mean? Like it's a Hopi tale? What do you mean yes to the Hopis?
Well, different. My son-in-law is Indian, and they have different tribes in different ranges have different names. They're
Okay.
kind of alike, you know, but they're different, and they all say they belong to one kind of basic group, but they're.
Uh,
Does that make sense? Like us?
Yeah. So I'm wondering what groups these are we're talking about. You said it was Hopi or Tiwa, or is one of those a subgroup of the other?
Probably Tiwong. Does it tell you?
I can tell you that what their pottery looks like, that they are famous
Mhm.
for.
Show us their pottery.
Their pottery is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's stoneware. It's yeah.
You'd have to research it. You can go online, type it in, and see what it tells you.
It's really cool that there's a Cinderella story from the Americas. It's
Well,
awesome.
they group them like that. It's a way that the storytellers have grouped them so that they all have one, you know.
Right, but just something from the Western Hemisphere.
I saw it in a Cinderella collection of stories, but I
Hmm.
don't have that collection. Got it from the library.
Hmm,
So
cool.
They're even
Anyway.
male Cinderellas.
That I haven't heard either.
Fell
Traditional stories about a male Cinderella.
Jerry Lewis.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Huh.
maybe that's a little off track, but it would fit. It would fit.
Yeah.
I can't remember. It's been years ago. So
But you know, there's lots of guy stories where there's three sons, and the first two sons are cool and smart and this, that, and the other. And the youngest son, of course, is a schlemazel. I mean, he just can't get it together. And yet he gets the princess. So
Tail
this is where he's given up and he has to go someplace and work, and a wizard kind of guy helps him. It was interesting.
Henry Wilson.
welcome,
Mhm.
Andre.
Hi.
Hello.
We've
And
been
I think I'm
chatting.
gonna head out.
Oh, Asaf, you need to leave early. Do you need to
Yep.
leave now?
Yeah, I'd like to, but thank you so much. It was great seeing everybody.
Nice to
I'm
see
glad
you.
to see you.
Yeah, take care.
To
Take care.
February,
Seriously, take care. Be careful. Yeah.
to
hope to
next
see you.
time.
Bye.
So
Bye-bye.
Andre, you have only missed one tale, a variation on Cinderella from New Mexico that I told.
From the accent. you're doing.
And now I'm inviting, Melissa might be ready to tell
I
a story
think
now.
mine goes behind yours because it's a
Oh.
similar kind of story.
Very good. Would you like to keep the recording on?
Yes.
Very good.
Sure.
Melissa Hobbs.
You have this age.
Okay. So there was a young woman named Delilah, and her father. Well, I know of them because they live in El Cerrito, next door to me. A friend of a friend, you know. And her father works for the city of El Cerrito as a supervisor. Well, unfortunately, during this COVID time, Delilah's mother died of COVID. And then her father remarried. And the woman that he married had two daughters that were almost the same age as Delilah. They were twins, Jessie and Laura. Well, the second wife died too of COVID. And the city of El Cerrito was dealing with bankruptcy issues. So the father goes to Delilah and he says, come on, come into the bedroom with me and leave the girls out there in the kitchen. And he says, now, Delilah, I have 3 girls now. You're the oldest and you get good grades, right? Well, yes, Father, I do. What's this about? Well, these two girls, I hear rumors that they hang out at the liquor store after school, and nobody wears a mask. I'm working. In fact, they've given me 3 supervisor jobs now because they laid off the other 2 supervisors. So I'm not going to be home. I don't even know if I can be here on the weekends. I've got to do my job. I've got to serve, this is my job. Okay, Father, what do you want? I want you to take care of the girls. I want you to go and get them after school and bring them home for dinner. And I want you to cook dinner. But Father, I hang out with my friends after school. It's like the only time we can socialize and actually see each other besides Zoom and besides the social media. I find out what's happening. I don't care, Delilah. That doesn't matter anymore. We have our family to take care of. Don't you understand? Oh, Father, will you do it? Because I asked. Okay. So what choice did she have? Her father goes off to work early in the morning, like 6 a.m. And he says, don't count on me before 8 o'clock or later. But I want you to have the girls here by 6 and have dinner served. Well, Delilah tried to figure out a way to get around this. So she put in the crock pot, set it on the timer. She set up the rice cooker, put it on the timer to go off at 5:30. So then she could get the other girls home by 5:30 and everything could be ready by 6. And she thought she had it all figured out. So she walks down to the liquor store and yep, there they are behind the liquor store and everybody's chatting each other up. The guys are out there being macho and the girls are flirting and there's Jessie and Laura. And they said, oh, it's our new sister. Guess what her name is? It's not Delilah anymore, even though we like her deli sandwiches. No. It's Cova Delilah. It's Covadella. That's her name. In fact, we made up a little chant for her. Covadella danced in the kitchen. Covadella mopped in her deli. And Covadella tried to tell us what to do, but it went down the toilet in the parking lot. And all the other kids laughed. And Covadella, Delilah, she cringed. Oh my gosh, these girls set everything up against her. She said, girls, we have to go home now. But then Brandon walks up to her. He says, hey, did you hear, Covadella, there's going to be a party at Justin's house this weekend, a pool party. And all the girls are wearing bikinis. Bikinis? It's wintertime. You can wear your mask, but that doesn't keep you from wearing a bikini. And when we get in the pool, we take the bikinis off, the masks off, because, the water's chlorinated. So are my sisters going? Oh, yes, they're going. Well, how can I get there? I can't ride my bike there. They'll think I'm an environmentalist. Well, you can go with my Grandma Belle. She's coming around the neighborhood. She's going to pick up everybody and give them a ride over there. So you can avoid being embarrassed, Covadella. Okay, text me her phone number. So that worked out okay. The day came, and there's Grandma Bella down at the sidewalk. So Covadella runs to the sidewalk and jumps in, and all the other high school kids are in the back seat. And Grandma Bella gives her a little wink. She understands. She understands. She sits there in the front seat, the last seat to be taken, and all the kids in the back are chanting. Covadella danced in the kitchen. Covadella pranced with her mop. And all the things she did for Jessie and Laura went down the toilet in the parking lot. Ha 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 ha. She peeked over at Grandma Bella. Grandma Bella looked at her and nodded just a little bit, so she knew Grandma Bella understood exactly. It's just the way it was. They were going to tease her mercilessly. And her mother was gone, nobody to help her. But she pulled up at the parking driveway of Justin's house where the party was going to be. And Grandma Bella yells, "Everybody be back at 5:30, because that's when I'm going to pick you up." Well, she had set the crock pot and she had set the rice cooker to go off. And they all ran up the driveway and put on their masks and went inside. And there across the side, across the pool was Jessie and Laura. And Delilah had her little group on one side. Jessie and Laura's group were all flirting, and then the guys on the far side were bumping each other and pushing each other down and acting bravado. Then Justin jumps up on the diving board and he says, "Okay, everybody, time to throw off your masks and jump in the pool." And just at that moment, Delilah's cell phone went off. It was a text from her father. "PG&E is going to be shutting off the power at 6 o'clock, he says. You've got to get home early and make dinner, have it all ready, and start a fire before 6 o'clock when PG&E shuts off the power because there's a bad thunderstorm coming and you've got to do it. I heard a rumor that you weren't even home. You better do it or else." All the kids were in the swimming pool looking at her. She hadn't taken her mask off. She had to do what her father said. She ran down the side of the pool, through the gate, threw off her mask, and ran all the way home. She made the dinner. She had the fire going. Her sisters were happy. Her father was happy. But she cried all night. And then the next morning, social media blew up. They were all making comments about whoever that girl was. She was dumb. She was dumbness itself. Why would anybody associate with her? That she rejected the party. And there in the kitchen were her sisters standing, doing nothing. She said, "Oh, so you girls can make your own breakfast." "Well, no, I stubbed my toe in the bottom of the pool," says Jessie. And Laura says, "I don't feel like cooking. You do such a good job. And you know, Father wouldn't like it if he knew that you weren't going to cook for us." "Oh, okay, I will make your breakfast." "And," says Laura, "did you know that Justin was going to go around and try to find the girl that was wearing that dragon mask? We've already looked all around for that fabric you used to make your mask. You know, our masks came from the boutique downtown. You just make your homemade ones." Well, she ran up the stairs to find that little scrap of dragon fabric that was left over. Her mother had given her this fabric, the only thing left she had of her mother. So she took the blue silk scarf, she opened it up, and there was the scrap of dragon fabric. She put it in her pocket and went back downstairs and sat down and ate eggs and toast with the other girls. And then somebody was knocking at the door. The girls threw on their masks and they opened the door, and there was Justin. "Hi, girls. I've come to see if one of you owns the fabric for this dragon mask." You know, a lot of girls said they did, but in the end, it wasn't matching. So Delilah pulled out her fabric and she showed it, and it matched the mask that he had. And he said, "My goodness, you're the one. Delilah, they call you Covidella now.
Crocodilla.
Why did you leave my party? I feel like you rejected me, girl. Well, no, I had to go home because my father ordered me to go home to cook. Well, I'm going to have a special party, just you and for me, next weekend. Hey, wait, Jessie says, and Laura's frowning. You know, we lost our mother too. She's not the only one that's having trouble. We're just trying to get along. Okay, well, I'll have another party for you later on. But this girl's special. She told me the truth right off. You don't know how many people were trying to cheat to have time with me, but I am going to promote this girl on WhatsApp, on Twitter, on all the social media, because she's quite a good person when it comes right down to it. And that's the story of Covidella.
Oh, Melissa, my. Talk about reaching into the real world nearby, people you know.
Well, it's actually not a true story. I made it up, but it sounds real.
El Cerrito really is in
El
bankruptcy.
Cerrito really is in bankruptcy. So,
Oh, it is? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh,
oh yeah, they've been struggling. Anyway, I had fun writing that.
And PG&E just cut off power at 6 o'clock in thunderstorms.
Yeah, we know about PG&E.
social media is such a brutal world for kids.
Yeah.
But are you all not wondering about Melissa's tale as I am about the part that is true? Is it not true that you know people in El Cerrito who have had COVID tragedies?
Well, I'm sure there are people in El Cerrito who've had COVID tragedies.
Oh, but you don't know them.
I made that up because, I mean, it could be, any of us could have had this experience with knowing people who died of COVID.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it really is, we do really have Cinderella stories going on all the time.
Mhm.
So when you
Wow.
started telling your story, I'm like, oh no, it's
That's
another
my story.
Cinderella story.
Well, at least you brought yours to closure. I've left many of you wondering what's going to happen to my maiden when she not only loses the turkeys, but has to go home.
Mhm.
So thank you, Melissa, for tying it up.
Mhm.
You're welcome.
If you want any comments, you're welcome. People could offer them now.
Oh yeah, I'd love to hear some comments if people wish.
I think it's an important story for young people to hear.
I would agree.
I'll have to find a venue for that.
She was awful
like this one.
obedient to her father. I mean, do I know any young, how old was she?
Like a 15 or 16.
Yeah, they're pretty rebellious at that age. Tie her in somehow why she's so willing to help her dad, you know? It just, besides with the two girls, I need.
Her ancestor, she had to take care of her children.
Well, I've had,
her
there's a
siblings.
lot of women in my history who were given this kind of responsibility, and they weren't given a choice. Like my the woman whose name I take, Melissa. What happened was her father was a miner and he died, and her mother went back to Ohio and married again, and so Melissa then had to take care of all the children from the first marriage.
Yep.
Mhm.
That does happen.
Yep.
And she had to take care of them until they were 21. So she became kind of an
Surrogate
old
mother.
maid, as they would say, because she was probably almost 30 by the time she actually got married.
That's
So
why I
Melissa-
wrote my book, Damsels Overcome, because that's a pretty typical story all around. But still, today, that's just
But it's
just my
happening
thing.
here.
That's just me.
But it's still happening here, Bobby, in India.
Yeah. Well,
But
I know
I
it's
think
still
Melissa's
happening.
done a very good job of weaving COVID into circumstance that would have, like Bobby says, been with somebody as old as my mother was, born in 1924. But thanks to COVID, now that can happen again. And I really, Melissa, liked how you brought resistance, initial resistance, but that's when I'm with my friends. Those are really,
yeah.
I love those
Oh,
kinds
yes.
of contrasts.
Yeah, maybe a little more resistance like that because the different age. Does she have a phone? Do they have cell phones? She
Yeah,
has a,
she gets
yeah.
a text from her father on the phone that she knows it's from him because she has the sound hooked up, you know, that you can choose the texts, different sounds for different people.
Do those two little daughters have phones or two little people she's taking care of? Do they have cell phones?
Yeah. Yeah, that's how people communicate now. It's all social media. You know, the first thing when you get up in the morning is you check it, and then, you know, if there's negative things said, your rest of your day goes bad.
Can I make one more thing?
Sure,
I know
of
this
course,
is,
yes.
I didn't know that maybe I wasn't listening correctly, that they wore different kinds of masks and she wore a dragon's mask. I didn't hear that part. Remember when
Yeah,
she
well,
goes to
Yeah,
the pool?
I was looking for the written version of my story, which I told on New Year's Eve, and then I couldn't find it. So I was kind of trying to remember it from,
Okay.
and I
okay.
probably forgot a few details like that. Sorry.
It's all right. I just was seeing those old cloth masks on their face. I didn't realize it was a kind of a New Year's party that they dress up in. Okay, just remember that. That's a important little
Yeah.
1 second thing, you know.
Yeah, when the way I wrote the story, when they're at the pool, her sister's friends are all making fun of the girls that she's with because they all have homemade masks, and all the other girls have
Okay.
their store-bought masks
Yeah.
that are like supposed to be better.
The way it's gone. Yes. Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Excellent story.
Thank you, Melissa. So I don't know if Renu or Vicky or Andre are interested in telling next, but whoever raises their hand will be able to be our next teller. Vicky Ness.
I'm going to tell another story about a young girl. So fasten your seatbelt. Adelaide was a normal, perfectly normal young girl. She loved birthday parties. She wore her hair exactly the way all the other girls did. She loved to get new clothes right before school, except that she had something different that they didn't have. She had a hole in the back of her head so that when she was outside, the light would shine through and illuminate her mouth. And all her friends would look at her and say, ah, and then all of a sudden they'd go. And she'd cover up her mouth. And so she learned to talk with her teeth shut so that they couldn't see the light. And then she learned to just communicate with facial expressions. That got difficult after a while. But in high school, she discovered hats. And she wore the most wonderful hats, everything from yarmulkes to sombreros to hijabs, every hat in the world. And of course, it kept her mouth dark because she had her hole in the head covered. And she became a fashionista. And all the kids would look to see because this became something she was really good at. And she would dress in an English newsboy's cap, and then she'd have knickers and she'd have plaids, or the next day she would have a crown with cloth coming down and something with sparkles. She just pulled everything off, and that went all the way through college. Then she got her first job in an office, and by this time she was beyond fashionista. She was a cutting edge fashion statement. The insouciance, the gentle humor, the brilliant colors and the knowledge of fabric. People would stop working and look to see what she was wearing because it was amazing what she pulled off. For her part, she noticed the IT guy in his little dark badger cave of an office lit up by computer screens. He was kind of a dweeb. And he had those big, thick glasses that he kept having to push up his nose. And he would come running out and fix computers for people and then go running back into the darkness. His name was Herbert. What kind of people named their kid Herbert? Well, there he was, Herbert. As the office called him, H-Man. Well, she actually thought Herbie was sweet and kind and smart. And if he took off those big, thick glasses, he was actually pretty handsome. So they would start to meet in the lunchroom. And then they would go out and have lunch in a brew pub or a coffee shop. And then that elevated to dark Italian restaurants where she wouldn't have to wear a hat. Movie theaters, no hat required. And they started to really, really drift slowly into love. And of course, when they were in bed together with the lights off, no problem. And the closer they got emotionally, the more she felt like maybe this is the one. Maybe this is somebody I could live with forever. But she had a secret. Well, one day, Herbie said, let's go for a picnic.
Uh-oh.
So they went, and it was March, and it was cold, clear, bright, and there was a raggedy wind blowing, and they went up the hill, and the grass was waving like an ocean of green, and the oak trees had little tiny electric green leaves on them, and the sky was cobalt with huge cumulus clouds that looked like Spanish galleon ships sailing across the blue. It was magnificent. And they spread out their blanket and they put out their food. And that's when Adelaide saw the most beautiful wildflower. And she jumped up to get that wildflower and she picked it up and she looked back at Herbie and she said, look at this. Ah. And that's when she realized the wind had taken her hat off and there was light shining through her mouth. And he went, oh. And she went, oh. And she went and got the hat and put it back on her head and sat down next to him. And he went, oh. And that's how they sat. And they ate their lunch and nothing was said. Until later that night, it started to leak out that she had a deformity. And even later that night, it started to leak out that there was nothing she could do about it. And so they wove their way, soul to soul, to an agreement that he still loved her and it was going to be all right. And so it was all summer. By the end of summer, he said, why don't we go have a picnic again, our favorite place? So up the hill they went. By this time, the grass was golden and stood straight up, no breeze at all. And the oak trees had huge masses of dark green leaves and pools of black shadow. And the sky was totally bereft of clouds anywhere. It was magnificent. And that's when Herbie said, I need to ask you 2 questions. And she said, okay, what are they? And he said, first, he said, I want you to take your headscarf off. Oh, she said, oh. Okay, so she undid the enormous knot under her chin and let the scarf fall. And he said, and I want to ask you something else. I want to ask you if you'll marry me, because I've never met anybody with so much light in them. And she said, yes, I will, because she had never met anybody who loved her for that.
Vicky, thank you. Difference.
Yeah.
I love how you torque things that matter so much that may or may not need to matter. I like how you wield difference.
Yeah, we're all kind of weird and we just have to accept that.
But
It's
the way
good.
you treat these things is to accent them, almost you need to highlight them. Every story yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Are you
Yeah.
wanting comments? Do people want to have?
Sure.
Vicky, I must tell you, you're a gift to all of us. The kind of stories you tell us, my God, is simply mind blowing. I mean, your imagination, I was just listening to you and I was thinking, my God. It's such a gift for me to have met you, you know. Vicky, every story of yours has just floors me because they're so, and the way you tell them, my God, your expressions, you just take us along with you, you know, your imagination and the way you describe your language. It's amazing, amazing. I just don't have words to express myself, Vicky.
Thank you.
You're a natural. It just the story comes. That's really good. Really good.
Thank you.
Anyone else? If there are no more comments for Vicky, I could ask if Andre Renu will probably be back soon, but it's nice to have you, Andre. Are you coming tonight with a tale you would like to tell, and would you like to tell it now?
Yes.
I keep forgetting to ask people, would you like to be spotlighted?
Yes, please. Thank you very much. Renew has invited me to the Kata Potpourri Festival in India. I'll be performing on Zoom on the last Sunday in January, and this is the story that I'll be performing. It is called The Mermaid and the Sea Cook, and as I adapted it from Richard Dawson's Mermaid Tales and the volume American Negro Folktales. Long before there were steamships, sail ships sailed the seven seas. The Atlantic Ocean was 3,000 miles wide and 5 miles deep. There are also mermaids in those days. Sea creatures that had the upper body of a woman and the tail of a fish. And if the mermaids overheard the name of a crew member on a passenger ship, the mermaid would demand him by name. And if the crew did not throw him overboard, the mermaid would capsize the ship and cause everyone to drown. So the captains of these ships got very smart. They changed the names of their crew members to various objects on the ship. The captain would say, "Scissors, man the topsail." And the mermaid would leap out of the water alongside the ship and say, "Give me scissors!" And the crew members would whoop, throw a pair of scissors overboard. And Mermaid would grab the scissors and sink back into the water. And the ship continued on its way. The next day, the captain would say, "Suite of furniture, go to the stateroom and make up the beds." And the mermaid leapt out of the water alongside the ship and said, "Give me suite of furniture!" And the crew member threw a suite of furniture overboard. They threw tables and chairs and clocks over into the water. And the mermaid grabbed these pieces of furniture and sank back into the water. And the ship continued on its way. By and by, one day, the captain forgot. And he said, "Sam, go to the galley and fix supper." And the mermaid leapt out of the water and said, "Give me Sam!" Now Sam was the ship's black cook. And when the captain realized what he had done, he had said, "What have I done?" And the mermaid was banging on the ship, said, "Give me Sam! Give me Sam!" She began to try to pry the boards apart. And the crew members rushed. The captain said, "What shall we do? We have nothing else on the ship named Sam. If we don't give the mermaid something named Sam, she'll capsize the ship and cause all of us to drown." The captain gave Sam a sad look and said, "I'm sorry, Sam, but whatever you do down there with the mermaid, don't tell her that you like fish." "Aye, sir." And so the crew members picked up Sam and threw him overboard. And as he fell along off the ship, the mermaid leapt out of the water and grabbed him and said, "I got Sam! I got Sam!" And a big, long hair began to wrap around Sam and form a capsule so that when she dived into the water, he was able to breathe in it. And she swam and swam and swam until she arrived at a cave on a steep cliff. And she went inside the cave, and her big, long hair untangled from Sam and left them on the beach inside that cave. And Sam looked around and saw all these pieces of furniture and scissors and clocks and things that were tossed overboard from passing ships to the mermaids. And the mermaid looked at Sam. She had big, long green hair and purple lips, and she slithered and slunked up to Sam and said, "You look very nice. Do you like fish?" "No, ma'am. I won't even eat the stuff." "Very well, then. Let's marry." And so Sam married the mermaid. And every day, the mermaid ate seafood that was alive. She ate lobster. She ate clams. She ate swordfish. But Sam ate seaweed and sea bass. And by, the mermaid came up to him again. You look very nice. Do you like fish? No, ma'am. I won't even eat the stuff. Very well, then. Let's eat. And so the mermaid continued to eat her raw seafood and Sam ate seaweed and seagrass. But Sam was smart. He had noticed that when the mermaid slept, her big, long green hair continued to move and undulate about her body like the living tentacles of an octopus. And we recall that how when she captured him, her living hair formed a capsule around him so that he was able to breathe underwater. And he got an idea. So one day, the mermaid came up to him again. You look very nice. Do you like fish? Well, I'm a sea cook and I've traveled to ports all over the world. And I know how to prepare the finest raw fish in the world. What? You know how to prepare the finest raw fish in the world? Yes, ma'am. Just give me the ingredients and I will prepare you a feast of the finest raw fish in the world. And so Sam gave her a list of ingredients and the mermaid swam out from the cave and brought back all the ingredients. And Sam, he had all these things that had been deposited into the cave. You know, he had knives and he had pans and he had a stove and he had all this cookware and tables in the cave. And so Sam prepared a magnificent feast of raw seafood. And the mermaid ate and ate and ate. She said, carpaccio from Napoli, sushi from Yokohama, ceviche from Valparaiso. This is the finest feast of raw seafood I've ever eaten. And the mermaid ate and ate and ate and got fuller and fuller and tireder and tireder until she finally fell asleep with her head on Sam's lap. And her head of living hair kept moving about her head like the tentacles of an octopus. And while she slept, Sam got those pair of scissors that had been tossed overboard earlier, and he carefully clipped off her hair. And as he did so, the hair began to wrap around his body to envelop him. And Sam tiptoed towards the edge of the sea cave. And the mermaid woke up to, what happened to my hair? What happened to my hair? And she looked and saw Sam at the edge of the cave with her hair wrapping around to form a cocoon. She's like, come back with my hair. I cannot leave my cave without it. And as the hair completed forming a cocoon, a capsule around Sam, and dove into the water and swam in the ocean. When that giant ball of mermaid hair arrived at a beach, it untangled itself from Sam and slithered back into the water like a giant octopus, and it sank out of sight. Sam has spent 6 years with the mermaid, and he wanted to get as far away from the Atlantic Ocean as possible before her hair grew back. And he wanted to stay far away from the Pacific in case she came around the Cape to the other side. And so Sam, he settled in the Midwest, in the state of Kansas, where he became a farmer and never saw the sea again.
Thank you, Andre.
Thank you, thank you. Well, thank you, Renu, for inviting me.
I never thought I was getting to Kansas. Wow. Oh, my word. Are you wanting comments?
Yeah, sure. Because this is the piece I'm gonna be doing at the Kata Potpourri Festival.
Wow. I'm going
Loved
to,
it. Loved the story and the way you told it. My God, I could see everything happening right in front of my eyes.
Thank you.
Lovely story.
Thank you.
I love your movements. They're perfect.
Yeah, I like the mermaid.
Yeah.
But also her coming up, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me Sam.
Now, did you
And
make
her-
that story up?
No, I adapted it from several African American folk tales on mermaids and Richard Dawson's book, American Negro folk tales. Because it's very seldom that you would have African American folk tales about mermaids.
Yeah.
But what you don't understand, there were a lot of African Americans who served on ships as crew members. In fact, at one point, maybe like a third of the crew on ships were actually African Americans, you know. So of course, when they went back to wherever they came from, you know, they brought their tales with them. And the original story, it ended by Sam going on a date with other mermaids, and the other mermaids got jealous of the chief mermaid and swam him to safety because out of jealousy, you know, if I can't have him, nobody will. And I thought, well, and then the story ends, well, the reason why Sam survived because he was courting. Well, I didn't think that was personally like a good message to have for young men or people today, that you can get out of anything just by having more sex with different creatures. And I was like, man, how about he's a cook right now, so how about you use that as a means of finding something ingenious you can do with your skills in order to get out of a fix.
Mhm.
Good.
But one thing I did too, I studied not only African American folktales, but also Irish folktales and other folktales about mermaids. Because a lot of times in the book, there are things mentioned, but they weren't explained. For example, if you cut off the mermaid's hair, they cannot go back in the water. That's in like several folktales. Or if you, for example, if you tell the certain mermaids your name, because they'll take you back under the water. Also, they often say in the stories, the teacher on the ships never tell the mermaid that you like fish. Don't tell the mermaid that you like fish. But they wouldn't explain why, which is why I sort of amped up the cannibalistic aspect of it, you know, with the mermaid going, do you like fish? So it's pretty obvious that if he had said yes, the mermaid was going to eat him, you know. So that's an element in some of the stories. So there was like different elements I pulled from different parts, and I used my own imagination to pull it together.
Good.
Andre, tell me what is the title of the advisor who said, whatever you do, don't tell her you like fish.
That was the captain.
That's the captain.
Yeah, I found that in several folk tales in which they teach you on the ships, don't tell the mermaid that you like fish. Don't tell the mermaid that you like fish, but they never explain why.
Okay.
Which is why I really amped up the cannibalistic aspect of that.
you-
But Andre, how does the captain know that? I mean, why does he advise him to say that? I mean, when she asks you, don't say that you like fish. I mean, how does he know that? There's no explanation for that.
That's a good question, Renu. That's a very good question.
Well, Andre, if I may, I can't answer for Renu, but for my listening ears, I heard of an experienced seaman so salty that he's probably breathing and living in air. And
I did too.
yeah, that was okay with me. One more question, Andre. Did you get, when you call it the mermaid and the sea cook, is that an Andre title? I like that you don't say the cook, you say the sea cook. Because
The
that
sea
gets
cook
us to the
is my part. The original tale is called The Mermaid, you know, and there's like that section of the book just have mermaid, there's all these mermaid tales. But one thing I found out that at that period of time of seafaring, a lot of the cooks on the ships were African Americans. And very often the person who was tossed up aboard to the mermaid was was the cook, the ship's cook, and there was usually a black person. So okay, let's emphasize that then. You know, sometimes you could look at these stories, you can find bits of history, of wisdom, of how things were like at that period of time. But I found it very curious that the cook was often African American.
Wow. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Renu.
You're welcome. My pleasure. I love the story.
I don't
Thank
know
you.
if Bobby wants to tell another tale, but we haven't heard from Renu tonight. Are you wanting to tell us one now, Renu?
Yes. Yes, Linda. Is that
Shall I-
time?
It's time. Shall I spotlight you?
Yeah, sure. Is there time for me to tell a story or is it getting late?
Yes, it's not quite 8:30 and we usually end early, but we're scheduled to go till 9. But if people need to leave, you could excuse yourself now and then Raina won't be surprised. Melissa, do you have to
I'm
leave?
sorry, I have to go. I
Okay.
can't sit.
Thank you
too
for
long.
coming. Thank Tom.
Thank you very much. We'll see you next month.
Thank you, Melissa. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
So Renu.
Okay, so I'm going to share a story again which I've written, and basically I haven't shared the story before anywhere, so I just want to get some feedback from all of you, and also wanted to tell you that my internet connection is not so good, so probably I hope I don't get disconnected or something. So long time ago, there was a huge forest, so wide and so deep. Nobody knew how large it was. There were so many animals living in that forest, all kinds of animals. There were giraffes, there were zebras, there were bison, there were crocodiles, there were birds of all kinds. So every type of animal was to be found in that forest. But there was one animal who had lived there all her life. And that was this very old tortoise who lived right in the middle of that forest. And she lived there all by herself, but she was never lonely because somehow or the other, the animals would find a reason to come to her because she was wise. And whenever there was a problem amongst themselves, maybe among the elephants or the giraffes, or between the giraffes and the zebras, they would all come to her looking for a solution. And she always did find a solution. She made them realize where the solution lay. She never gave it to them. And so everybody called her Ma To as a form of respect. She was like a mother for all of them. In fact, nobody knew quite how old she was, perhaps as old as the forest itself. Every animal had a part of the forest that they had adopted as their own. The elephants had their spot, the giraffes had theirs, the zebras had theirs, the lions, the tigers, all of them. They lived in perfect harmony. Of course, they all looked different. They spoke different languages, and some of them, their food habits were different. But somehow they seemed to get along together. They understood each other's language. And perhaps it was also because of Ma To's influence, her calming influence. Now, the rabbits, they lived in their own area of the forest. And they were especially proud of that space because right in front of their burrow were different kinds of stones all grouped together. And they looked as old as the forest itself. Some of them were a smooth black, some of them a smooth gray, some of them were mixed colors. But all of them were so smooth, and one especially so because it was right in the middle. And it was a color which was very different. And the rabbits, they called it their story stone. Because you see, like all of us, rabbits loved story stone. And every night, as soon as dinner was served, the rabbits, one of them would choose to sit on that story stone, feeling very important and telling a story. Now, all the rabbits got a chance, right from the littlest one to the oldest. And every one of them waited eagerly for their turn to come. One night, there was a huge storm. Thunder sounded like huge claps. It was lightning that they normally never saw inside the forest because it was deeply wooded. But they could still see the streaks of lightning. And then the rain came belting down. All the animals went scurrying to their various homes and shelters, including the rabbits. They scurried down their burrow and sat there in fright. Right through the night, the storm raged. And sometime, perhaps at midnight, there was a loud crack. And they shivered in fright. What if one of those giant trees had fallen and blocked the entrance of their burrow? Papa Rabbit said, "Don't worry. Let's just sit here and wait. The morning we'll find out and we'll figure out a way." And so they all huddled up together. And in the morning, Papa Rabbit went up and it was open. So he came out. A huge tree had indeed fallen, but it had fallen onto the stones. And so they were safe. All the rabbits came out. And one of the rabbits said, "But look, the tree has fallen over our story stone, and we must do something about it. How do we get rid of this tree?" And Papa Rabbit said, "Don't worry, we'll ask our friends, the elephants, and surely they'll help us." And so the elephants came by and together they removed the tree. But their story stone, their precious story stone was gone. It had broken up. And all the rabbits cried, especially the littlest one, because that night it had been her turn to tell a story. "How am I going to tell my story?" she cried. And they all shushed her up and said, yes, we're all sorry about it. But see, there are so many of them that you can choose any one of the other stones. And after some time, she did calm down. But they were very, very unhappy. They missed their favorite story stone. And somehow it didn't feel the same to sit on some other stone and tell a story. Now, that was not all. Every day, animals had a complaint. And one by one, they would go to Mato. "Mato, somebody has been stealing my bananas," the monkeys would say. Or the elephants would say, "Mato, somebody's been eating up our sugarcane." The rabbits would say, "Somebody's been uprooting our carrots." And everybody wondered who the thief was. Because as far as they knew, they all knew what belonged to them and nobody ever stole from someone else. And this was the first time Matu had to face so many questions from so many different directions. And she said, wait, patience. We need to figure out who it could be. Not all of us eat everything, so surely there must be somebody. And so she decided that every animal would take a turn to stay awake during the night. And so the first one to say was the elephant. As the whole family paraded around the forest, only in the areas where they grew their food. And that night, one of them did see something. Something that was big and dark, but they couldn't really make out what it was. They were a little too scared because it looked so much bigger than an elephant. And so the next morning they went to Matu and said, yes, we did see something strange. It didn't look like any of us, but we were too scared to approach it. So the monkey said, we'll go. We will have a look because we sit on top of the trees, and so we are not scared. And the monkeys also waited on top of the trees, waiting to see this strange creature. And when they saw the form going from one place to another, the monkeys took turns to swing from trees to trees, just keeping an eye to see where this strange creature was going. And they too had kind of a vague description. They came back and said it has a long neck, but nothing like the giraffe. And so on and so forth. Every animal had a different description for this strange creature. And Matu sat and listened, and she thought. And she thought. And she sat in silence and she said, just leave me for some time. And so the animals waited. Every day they came and checked whether she had found the solution. And one day she said, yes, I think I know what the strange creature is. So all of you please gather around. And so they all came. And she said, I want each one of you to bring something, some food that you like, and leave it here with me, please. And I don't want any of you to stay. Please go away. And so everybody brought in, the elephants brought sugarcane, the monkeys brought their bananas, and the rabbits brought their carrots, and all kinds of food, and we all left it there. And Mato said, I will wait for this stranger. I'm sure whoever it is will know there's so much food and will definitely come. But aren't you scared? What if that creature kills you? I'm not scared. I've lived here in this forest my entire life. I've survived for so many years. What could possibly happen to me? She said. And she looked so calm and so confident that all the animals decided, okay, she seems absolutely confident. And so they went back and she waited. And sure enough, the creature did come. And she watched while the creature ate. And then the creature looked up and bent its head and went away. And when the animals came back the next morning, she said, well, as you can see, the food has been eaten. And yes, the creature did come, but it's just like any one of us. The forest will be its home. In fact, it was born here. This forest belongs to it as much as it does to everybody else. But who is it? We don't want a stranger amongst us. We don't want this animal. It's been stealing things from us. Every animal started to shout. And then Mato looked at each one of them and said, well, looks like you've forgotten that when every one of you came here looking for a home, I welcomed you. This forest belongs to everybody. Just because you've been living here and been raising your family here doesn't mean it belongs to you. It doesn't belong to me either. This is the only home I know. And this is the only home you know. And that stranger, that creature as you call it, actually was born here. And so this forest is more home for her and not it. They all looked at each other. But what is this creature? And what if we don't understand its language? Well, none of us speak the same language, do we? But yet we all understand each other. So how do you know that this creature won't understand us? All you need to do is help. Once again, the animals looked at each other. Okay, Mato, they said. And so Mato said, tonight you should all wait with me here, and we shall greet and welcome her. The animals did exactly as she said. Now I'm going to leave it to you. I'm not going to tell you what the animal is. I want you to guess. What do you think it was?
Human?
Well, I thought you told us, and I heard the word horse, and I've been wondering forever since.
No, I didn't.
Dinosaur.
Yes. Yes. Bobby, you got it.
Was that Vicky? Go big.
Yeah.
Was that Bobby?
So
That was
stone
Bob.
they were talking about is actually was the dinosaur's egg. And that's why Mato says this creature belongs to this forest because she was born.
Oh my
I hope that
gosh,
you-
Raina.
I hope you write these down because I could see the illustrations in my mind.
Yeah. So far I haven't written it yet, Vicky. I think just about a month ago is when the idea came to me. When I feel that there is so much of enmity going on everywhere, and people don't accept others, and they think that this place, this world belongs only to them, especially us humans, because we just think all other animals are not required, we exploit them. And it's not just that. I think racism happens everywhere. It's not just any specific countries. It happens so much in India between different cultures, whether it's the north or the south, the east or the west. It's constantly preying on my mind. And I feel, why do we even need language when we can communicate even without language? So the whole purpose of the story was for that. I don't know if that message came across, but this is from this angle that I wrote it, that, you know, everybody belongs. Nobody can say, I own this and I own that. This I, me, mine, all those words should not belong in the dictionary, because I think ultimately we are here temporarily. Everything doesn't really belong to us. We use it for a short period of time. And what's really struck me is when, you know, when you pass away and you're there waiting for your funeral or for your cremation or whatever, you just become the body. Even your name is not yours anymore.
Yeah.
You know, nobody refers to you as Renu. They say, take the body away. So that's when it struck me, you know, when I said, nothing really belongs to us, does it?
Yeah.
Nothing. Everything is actually given to you as a gift, but to be used very gently and passed on to someone else. Just as we give our prized possessions to others, to our children or to whoever. I think nature has given us this gift and said, please take care of it and pass it on to the next generation, which I think selfishly we haven't done. We've just used it all up, and, you know, and how many species have been decimated because of us. So these are things that really deeply affect me. So I think it comes out in my stories. And mostly my protagonists are always female. Like Bobby said.
Who was the animal, the main animal that lived in the center of the forest? I missed that.
Oh, that was a tortoise. A tortoise.
Okay, I thought so. She's ancient. That's why that dinosaur came.
Yes.
I love that the mystery animal is the original.
Yes.
The one who was there from the beginning.
Yes.
And the turtle holds up the four corners of the world. So she should, yes, she's in the middle. Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting. Lovely.
Well, Renu, you are really taking the evening to the place of what, you know, I could use the word justice, or I could use the word equality. I could use all the words that are swimming in our world now, and it fits into your forest that you made such beautiful size. I mean, you made big look good because it's so enveloping.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think it was an excellent message. I really enjoyed it a lot. Maybe
I haven't shared it anywhere. Yeah, I just wanted to know how well people will receive the story, because I wasn't really sure. And like I said, I never write down my stories, which is actually, it's not a right thing to do. I should. In fact, Bobby, I kept your words in mind: who, why, where, when, what. In fact, that is something now I'm looking at. But I think all of that comes automatically into the story. And much of it is improvisation, by the way. It's much of it is just impromptu. I think the conversations and all that. I don't really write down the dialogues, because then, you know, you get stuck there and say, I have to say this in this particular way.
Just do a simple outline. Just do a really simple outline. Title, who, what, where, when, why, blah, 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 why, blah, 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 and conclusion.
Yeah.
And then you can change them all you want.
Well, Renu, if you do what Bobby said, that'll be a good thing. But if you don't do what Bobby said, that'll be a good thing, because if we have some large, it starts with A and ends in N, entity in the world pushing and shoving and elbowing its way every which way, we don't want it to have an outline as to justify such behavior, although you can do it.
Also, it's taped. You've got a lot of your stories on tape.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, exactly. I haven't even taped this. Generally, I do tape my own stories, but I haven't really sat in front of the camera and done any stories in quite some time now. My YouTube channel is just sort of, I think, struggling to exist.
Oh my gosh, what a fun evening. I'm so glad you all came. And Bobby, I'm very glad that you put your www.bobbykincaid.com in the chat, because now it will give me, I forget how to copy the chat. It's probably easy.
And paste
Just remember my name with WWCOM. It's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm everywhere. If you look up my name on Google.
I know, but when I went to look for your story before, I was easily flummoxed. But I was too early or something. Too silly.
Too early, probably.
I think these days, Linda, because everybody's on social media in some form or the other, if you just type in their name, you'll probably, everything about them will pop up.
Yep.
Only
Super.
Vicky is not there. Vicky, I tried your name and you weren't there on Facebook or Instagram, anywhere.
Who's that?
You have to specifically find her on the swap groups.
I have got to do this. I've got to get a Facebook page, and I'm working with somebody to get a website.
Do a website.
Good.
Don't bother with Facebook. It's diluted.
Yeah.
Um,
It's not as popular as it was either. So
No, it is still popular, because
Is it?
especially now that more and more storytellers are there, it is nice to be there. But also, it, like Bobby said, social media can be very draining, can be very depressing. It happens to me all the time. It's not just youngsters. I think
Tons of
especially,
ads. Yeah.
yeah.
it can get to you. So I try to stay off as much as possible. Only if I'm having an event or something, then I go and post and get out quickly before I see what other people are posting. Because you feel you're not doing anything, everybody else seems to be having a fabulous time. So yeah.
Oh, you media mavens. That's pretty experience. That's a lot of experience right there. Anyone have anything to add before we close?
No,
Thank
lovely
you.
meeting. Lovely meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for hosting, Linda.
Yeah, thank you